Are plants trying to kill us? I'm guessing that you're questioning that too, since you clicked on this video. It's something that I'm really interested in discussing. And so I realize that this is me recording and putting it out there, but I'm hoping that we can actually increase the discussion around this area through comments and also questions and things like that, because I love to create more content based on questions that I get. So thanks for being here. If you're new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. And if you would please subscribe to the channel, it's very helpful. It actually helps me get some of the best people to interview, which, a part of me is like, I mean, if it really matters to the people what my numbers are, then do I really want to have them on? And some of those people, the answer is, yeah, I kind of do. So if you subscribe to the channel, it helps me get some of the people that I really want for all of us to be able to hear from them what is true about nutrition science, and also about everything related to the mind, body, and soul and our healing. I'm really after optimal health, and I'm guessing you might be too. So thanks for being here. All right. Hey, I'm Dr. Kelli. My background is in clinical mental health counseling. I got really interested in nutrition, went back to school to become a nutritional therapist, and just kept training and learning, and had started, my specialty was really in mental health nutrition. And then I got interested in quantum biology and started studying quantum biology and got a certification. And my latest certification in quantum biology. So I'm interested in always learning and always growing and always questioning. So if you're here, I'm guessing that you're kind of interested in the same things. So my interest in nutrition, I've always been interested in nutrition, even when I first started in the counseling field. So I was working in a psychiatric hospital for children. It's one of my first counseling gigs. And then working in residential treatment. And I just always kind of wondered about lifestyle and nutrition and those components, and particularly looking at through, in mental health, because it just never made sense to me the way I understood, like, why we needed to label people and give them a diagnosis so that they could get services, one. And I get the idea is that then you're able to figure out treatment. Like, that should make sense, but I never found that to actually be true. So it's always just a little, what's the word? Probably critical, but also just questioning. Is what we know really what we know? What we're thinking of that? Does that really make sense? And when it comes to mental health, we're really talking about these symptoms. A diagnosis is a list of symptoms. It doesn't tell me really anything about how the symptoms got there. So I've always been really interested in kind of the root cause of things and getting to the bottom, and which led me to quantum biology and understanding things from a cellular level and what's going on the cellular level. So, but this is about plants trying to kill us. So I, as a carnivore for 2.5 years, and I think most people, normal, regular people that look at what I eat, they think I'm still a carnivore. But to the carnivore world, I'm like a traitor, because I've incorporated some plants back into my life. And I'll tell you, if you haven't seen the video of me talking about why I did that, I've always been interested in kind of variety and entertainment. Food has always been entertaining to me. I have to be careful there because I do have some food addiction issues. So I got to walk that territory kind of carefully. But I really started wondering, does my body think it's in winter all the time? The more I started understanding mitochondrial health, and orienting our body to the time and place and season. So not just orienting to the time of day, which is super important through light and getting natural light, but also this idea of that our food is information to our body. And so if it is out of sync, if it is, and I think that's why eliminating plants is actually really helpful for a lot of people, because a lot of the reactions and the not just histamine reactions, but it's less confusing to the body if you're eating foods that aren't grown out of season. For your mitochondria, you're like, what? I mean, that just makes sense to me, that the these little organelles that are great at sensing their environment are very confused. And what we know about mitochondrial health is that healthy mitochondria drive health, and dysfunctional mitochondria drive disease through inflammation or reactive oxygen species. So what's the deal with these plants? If you're a carnivore and you're like, yeah, plants were trying to kill us. Yeah, they are full of these anti-nutrients. And the argument is, animals can get up and run or fight back. And so the defense chemicals are naturally in plants. They're not trying to kill us, actually. They're just trying to save themselves. And that's their way of defending themselves. Because if an animal eats the plant and is a little bit sick to dead, they don't eat it again, or it at least deters the animal from eating that plant again. So I'm not actually anti-plant. Sorry if you're like super carnivore and you're like, what? I'm not actually anti-plant. I think that humans have been consuming plants medicinally and for nutrition for a really long time. I don't think we necessarily need to abandon that, but it is quite interesting to think about these defense chemicals and what they're doing. And what I found in my work, so when I transitioned away from being this holistic psychotherapist into more nutritional therapy, and I started really noticing that there are these people, kind of groups, right? There are people who come to me that have been vegetarians, sometimes vegan, but mostly vegetarian for years and years and years. And their health, they've got thyroid problems, digestive problems, their anxiety's out off the charts, just all kinds of stuff going on. And they're like, maybe it's my diet. And so it's not like we put these people on a carnivore diet, by the way. It's not the way I roll. I work with people on an individual, we really start to figure out what's going to work for them, what intuitively and instinctively they feel about what they're eating. And what I recommend to people is just get super curious about your food and notice how you're feeling with certain foods. So your energy, your digestion, but also mood, because mood follows food. So you just start to kind of pay attention. How was my mood after that meal? Did my energy crash? Did I have enough energy to finish out several hours before I needed to eat again? I will tell you that hangry, so that, sugar crashes. Yeah, it's definitely related to our food, but that's a mitochondrial issue. That is not just a food related blood sugar regulation issue. That's a mitochondrial issue. So those of us who have low blood sugar issues and when our blood sugar crashes, we get really kind of irritable. Nobody wants to be around us. I remember one time we were driving somewhere and my husband pulled in some fast food place or something. I was like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm getting you some protein. I was like, oh, that's probably a good idea. Because I couldn't go more than, a few hours without some protein, or I was kind of not nice. So all of that improved, just incredibly as I moved into a carnivore diet. Lots of things improved, but some things didn't improve. And I think that's what's really interesting is the people that, lots of things improve, but some things don't. What's going on there? And do you want to keep going with that diet, or do you want to switch some things up? My guess is, from my experience, it's really about energy and about these electrons and about the way that our body is able to get electrons where they need to be and protons where they need to go. Because the mitochondria are an electron transport chain. The fifth step of that electron transport chain is making ATP, which is energy. So this becomes really critical in the whole puzzle of things. Now, whether these plants are trying to kill us or not, is still an interesting question. I don't really have a great answer. I know Dr. Anthony Chafee, is that how you say his name? He's cute. Isn't he cute? His girlfriend's really beautiful too. So I think listening to him, very interesting about plants trying to kill us. I think that he's an MD. It's interesting to listen to, Sean Baker and even Paul Saladino, which I know a lot of people are like, he's jumped right off the deep end. He's like, where I diverge from Paul, when people have these conversations about nutrition and they don't mention anything, that's like they have no clue about food addiction. But I think that that's a missing piece in these conversations, right? About food addiction, but also this it's missing the whole quantum biology piece. We're not talking about the importance of light and circadian rhythm. Actually, some of these folks do, and a lot of these people are just naturally outside a lot and are earthing because they're barefoot outside a lot. And so I would argue that when you are earthing, your bare feet are on the earth and your bare skin is on earth surfaces, you are absorbing those electrons. You're getting really good fat, which is full of electrons that is easy for the body to use. So I think there are multiple ways of eating that could be fine for people because of these other things. And there are other things that I think of as protective. I'm learning more and more, even in the world of consciousness, there are things that are really protective in the body. Protective, I would say, to mind, body, and soul, since that's not, you can't separate out body, mind, soul. And part of that, has to do with connection to earth, connection to our environment. When we're in harmony with our natural environment, things are going to work a whole lot better for us. And toxins that are naturally in our world, like mold and other viruses and things that we're going to come in contact with, they don't destroy us or wreck us as much when we have a body that has healthy mitochondria, that is connected to earth and our natural environment, in harmony with that natural environment. There's also social connection is really important. Looking at trauma and how unprocessed or unresolved trauma can get into the picture. Emotions are really important. So emotions are a key part of all of this. Our emotions and our immune system are inextricably connected. So I think all of that, when these things aren't part of the conversation, I'm like, are we really talking about the whole picture? But what I found in my work in nutritional therapy is that there are vegetarians that have been vegetarians for a long, long time, and it seems like their body really is reacting to these anti-nutrients. That's what we call these natural defense chemicals that are in the plants. And it really does seem like that. So it's not like I haven't seen a test that you test for this. It's just that the oxalates, like they have a lot of joint pain. I hear a lot about, like, my feet hurt me all the time. That's almost always a signal to me that these oxalates are a problem for this person. It could be the lectins, it could be the phytic acid, it could be whatever in these plants. But it seems like the plants themselves have become a problem. And so we slowly start where they're willing. It's usually fish and eggs and some, raw dairy and things like that. They start adding back, and then they feel a whole lot better. We work on digestion because digestion is like foundational for people. A lot of the people who come to me are having, they have digestive issues and mental health concerns at the same time, like a lot of anxiety, or sometimes they're on that anxiety depression roller coaster where they're just like, feel like they're so anxious, and then they just are so lethargic. And that could be blood sugar. That's almost always mitochondria and our mitochondrial dysfunction. And it could be that they're really just not getting their nutrients. It becomes an absorption issue. So it's not just like, even if they're eating healthy things, they're not able to absorb those nutrients. And it's just a fact that the animal sources of food are going to be more bioavailable, meaning it's more absorbable. So the nutrients that are available are going to be easier for your body to assimilate. That is just human digestion. But where I see a lot of the people that come for mental health concerns almost always have digestive concerns too. They tend to go hand in hand. So we'll start with digestion. So, you've got the people that it really does seem like the plants themselves are the problem. Then you got people like me who are kind of a combination of, I don't think it's necessarily the anti-nutrients in the plants. It's more of the absorption issue, and also could be food addiction. And so you got to walk this territory. And I'm telling you, carnivore diet is amazing for helping figure out food addiction and what foods are okay and not okay. Unfortunately for me, the most difficult to navigate is dairy. So, but I also believe with more healing, things can shift for people because I've witnessed that. So, just because somebody can or cannot handle something doesn't mean that that won't shift at times. The other group of folks that really struggle with a lot of plants are the autoimmune folks. So that's not a nice way. The people that are struggling with or have been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, often their systems are just so inflamed and on fire and confused that the plants just make it more confused. And so that's what it seems like is happening. That's particularly with gluten. Forget the name of the researcher at Harvard that's shown that gluten itself is inflammatory in all people. So it doesn't matter who you are. So I think grains can tend to be a really big problem for people who are already inflamed. And we know that inflammation is present in mental health issues. We know that inflammation is present in all chronic disease. All the modern chronic disease, almost all of it, is inflammation related. So reducing that inflammation becomes key. And then, finding the foods that seem to really work for the body, for that person's body, is a key part of that. I'm going to just argue that an ancestral seasonal approach appears to be the best approach. Whether you want to include plants or not, completely up to you. If you're healing and you feel amazing with whatever way you're eating, actually, it doesn't matter what way of eating. My guess is that you're doing some other lifestyle things that are supporting your circadian rhythms, that are supporting your quantum biology, that are giving you lots of electrons and giving your body information through the light environment. So then it becomes less important what you're actually, what you're eating. I still think it's important, but it becomes less important. So, and the other people that have really don't do so well with the plants are my people that come with major digestive issues. Crohn's disease, IBS, gastritis, colitis, all of those folks really have to, it's really trial and error. So once we get the seed oils out and all the processed, these people come to me, they're not eating super high processed garbage. They're already eating clean. A lot of them are really focused on fiber. And so because some doctor has told them to do that, and we back off of that, I just suggest to them that maybe for a trial that we, back off of the plants for a bit, give their body a little bit of a break, focus on the animal food sources that they like, that they can afford, that seem to work for their body. And I have yet, I need some wood, knock on wood, yet to see that not improve people's situation. People tend to go back to some of their other ways, and then their digestive gets bad again, and then we do the whole thing over again. But I just want to point out that hidden infection, trauma, injury, suppressed emotion, like really pushing down a lot of emotion, all of those things are going to affect the immune system, which you're going to trigger reactions. So all of that has to be looked at. You have got to look at the whole thing. It's not just about the plants, but reducing the plants does seem to help. So those are the folks that seem to be the most sensitive or whatever's going on there with the plants. And they just have to play with that. Trial and error, figure that out. I keep saying these ancestral seasonal, but if you eat foods that are in season for where your feet are currently planted, you're much more likely to help your body orient to what season it's in, when it needs to make what hormones, when it needs to make and release. So it's not just making the hormones and making the neurotransmitters, it's when to release what, so that everything is working properly. Yeah. And I just, I think that sometimes the plants complicate things for people. And sometimes they don't. they're just not part of the problem. So I think to keep an open mind about that. I keep an open mind about that. And I really listen to people. I listen to their stories. I'm a qualitative researcher, so I like that. And I like, helping people kind of navigate these interesting waters for themselves. So the jury's out on whether the plants are trying to kill. I don't think they're trying to kill us. I think they're trying to defend themselves. But whether or not we actually, need the plants, it does not appear that that's the case, because you look at people who have been, strict carnivore for 12 years, 20 years, and they are thriving. So whether you want to do that or not is up to you. But this whole thing about needing fiber, and every time somebody says, "Oh, we have to have fiber," I'm like, I don't see that is actually true. And in fact, the people with the more severe digestive issues and even some of the mental health stuff actually do better when they either greatly reduce or completely eliminate fiber. So that's curious, right? And I think it's just a question that we should continue to ask ourselves, is what is going to be best for my body in my own health and healing journey, and then go with that and experiment with that. And I think it's interesting that when people are like, "Oh, well, I cheated with such and such food." To me, that's not a cheat. That's just a decision. It's just food. So you're made a decision about some food that you're going to eat. But what that almost always entails, people think, "Oh, it's the sugar." It's almost always seed oils. And it turns out, I think the seed oils, I mean, we've got more and more evidence, but it's really the seed oils that are the problem. And so getting the seed oils out of your life is huge for people and really helping with inflammation. But if you're interested in other ways like the mitochondria and the light and circadian rhythms and earthing, check out all those videos, because I think quantum biology has a lot to offer us. And of course, the food's important too, but I think we can learn a lot about how to help ourselves heal and have healthy, optimal health through quantum biology. So thanks for being here, and happy healing.